Hi there, welcome back and welcome to a short tutorial video on how to conduct your research, which is module number 19 of your learning journey. And this particular task will require you to be able to access your PRISM Career Match database. In order to do that, you basically need to go back to the portal, which you'd have been given all of the sign-in information on the email that was sent to you immediately after completing your questionnaire. Put your email and your password in, you'll access the portal. This will be your landing page, and then click straight on the Reports tab. On this page, which will be familiar to you by now, you'll see here's where we learned how to access and download our Career Match reports. This is the panel where the database exists, and in order to access the entire database, as you will recall from a previous module, we just need to uncheck the 4-dimension scores, and then we can see here the full database of 860 different types of occupations is there. You will recall also that when you wanted to do some research about the types of occupations that maybe were interesting to you and you wanted to learn more about, you'd simply click on the occupation, and then you'd be able to complete quite extensive research using this function, where you can look at everything from the education to the tasks and the work activities, just to really get a better insight about that particular type of occupation. However, having done that research and maybe come up with a short list of 10 or 20 different types of careers, it's really important now to be able to see how well you match them. And what we've got in this particular function is the means by matching those careers both on your aptitudes from your career match reports as well as your behaviours. So we can conduct two kind of different types of research based on aptitudes and behaviours. And the way that we're going to do that, first and foremost, we'll start with behaviours. Click on the behaviours tab, and then what will happen immediately you click on the behaviours tab is that your 4-quadrant scores from your map, which depicts your kind of aggregated score of your dimensions of behaviour from your questionnaire, will appear here, and they will search the database and identify the careers and occupations that most closely match those scores. Now, in this instance, we can see that there are 7 very close matches. Now, as it may well be that when I conducted my research, some or a few of these have already been flagged up as occupations that I might be interested in, but also it may well be that there's some things that crop up here that perhaps you weren't interested in or didn't catch your eye, but they're there because they match your own behaviour preferences. Now, you can decide to investigate further, and in order to do that, basically, you can first of all click on the profile button, where you can see the reason that this particular role has been matched to your behaviour, because in the profile button you can see the benchmark map of the career or occupation very, very closely matches your underlying map of your behavioural preferences. So, we can effectively ask the system to match our behaviour preferences and narrow down the search. However, we want to be able to use this platform not to kind of guide us to 1 or even 7 roles, but maybe to dozens of different types of careers that we can explore that maybe don't have a perfect match, but have a reasonably good match. And the way to do that is to follow the next 2 steps. Firstly, we're going to unclick the 4 boxes for your dimension scores for your map, and then you will see that the full database appears, and then we're going to literally do our own research, and let's say we're going to choose 2 roles. Let's say from our initial research about careers and occupations, we came up with accounting and acting, and we want to be able to figure out how well suited we are to those. In order to do that, we're just going to go across from accounting to the View Profile tab, click on the Profile tab, and then we can see our 4-quadrant behaviour profile map matched to the benchmark of the role. Now, what we're effectively looking for here is some synergy, some similarity between the two shapes. Where there is a large difference, it is effectively telling us that our natural behavior preferences are not ideally suited to the kind of behaviors that would typically be needed for this particular role. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean, if I've got my heart set on being an accountant, that I shouldn't pursue this or I couldn't be successful at it. What it does reveal, however, is in order to pursue this career, in order to be successful at this particular career, I would almost certainly need to adapt my behavior quite considerably and maybe sort of develop a different set of natural skills to be able to compensate me for the type of work that will be required to be successful at that particular role. So it's not necessarily an elimination, but it is a guideline to say, you know what, that's probably not a perfect match in terms of my suitability. Let's look, on the other hand, at actors. Obviously that requires a very different set of behaviors, and here we can see this match, whilst it's not a perfect match, you can see some similarity between the shapes in terms of, you know, the key areas here in the red quadrant and the green quadrant are very similar. There's a little bit of gap here, not too much of a gap here, but a small gap. But by and large, what we're effectively saying is my map is outside of the behavioral aspects of this particular map. And those kind of, what that effectively means, it is within my sort of comfort zone that I could quite comfortably assimilate into this role and maybe would have the right kind of behaviors in order to be able to learn and develop and grow within the role. And that's basically the way you use the mapping in terms of your behavior aspects. So what you're going to do, just as a recap, if you want to narrow it down, you'll check the boxes. If you want to broaden the search and have the entire database, you'll go into the panel. And at every stage, whenever you want to compare yourself with the map of the occupation or career you're interested in, just click on the profile and you'll see your map against the benchmark. Now, that explains how we do this for behaviors, but also we have an additional facility to be able to compare ourselves in terms of the key aptitudes. And in this instance, it's a different set of comparisons. Rather than a sort of looking at 4 key areas with our color quadrant scores, we're actually asking the database to look at one of our key strongest aptitudes. And in this instance, the strongest aptitudes are, for me, on my map, enterprising, artistic, and social. And we can see here, if I click all 3 of these, I've got 14 different careers, which when I then click the profile map, will show me some very, very similar kind of maps in terms of looking at how we are comparing my underlying aptitudes for that particular role compared to the benchmark. So this is another layer of research that we can do. Again, if we want to be able to extend the search and widen the net, we can see the numbers are changing here. So if I'm just focusing my search on my strongest aptitude, which is I'm enterprising, then I've got 303 entries. If I want to filter down a bit more, enterprising and artistic, which are strengths from my own map, then I can see there's 42. And I would strongly recommend using the aptitudes that you look through all of these key matches that you have, at least for your first and second highest aptitudes, and see if there are some careers that might inspire you or motivate you, or if there are some areas where occupationally maybe you want to just do a little bit more research and see how maybe there might be an opportunity to consider that particular career in the future. And that's basically how you use aptitudes and behaviors and a database and the profile button to match your map against the benchmark. If you can use that information in this tutorial to complete this task, congratulations. And as of course, if in the previous times you need any help or assistance, please don't hesitate to go back to your journey.